did I pronounce your last name correctly?
Close. It's the T is hard, so it's Fotis.
Fotis. Thank you. And thank you for joining us. I'm bringing up this photo of our civil servant kind of as an overlay to show the lovely Lynetta Shaw. We call her Lynn. And when I think of public service and I think of great public service, I think of Lynn.
Absolutely.
And for those of our listeners that may not know, or viewers on the podcast that may not know, Lynn gained her wings this year after a valiant battle with myeloma cancer. And so I want to talk to you a little bit about public service. And I see Val has joined us, so I'm going to bring her in just to be in the suite with us, and then I'll double back to her for some questions. Thank you, Val, for joining us. See if I can make the three of us look a little better. Make me better. Y'all look great. Okay. Thank you all for your patience. I was trying to do something a little different, and I tested it out. And of course, you tested it out and it worked. But of course, it would go awry once you go live. But and so thanks, Val, for joining us. Sam, tell us a little bit about your interaction with Lynn Shaw and why you think that she is a good example of what public service looks like.
Well, for those that are on that may not be aware, I am the director of operations for the Movement Electronic Music Festival and for the Detroit Jazz Fest that both take place in Hart Plaza. So I've had the distinct and profound pleasure to have met and worked with Lynn for the past 15 years, every season throughout the year, planning our events and everything. And, you know, it's, I'm still trying to process the thought of operating in that facility without Lynn and her incredible personality and huge heart. You know, over the years, when we first started doing the Movement Festival in 2006, you know, we were young, we were naive, you know, and Lynn was a very imposing presence, you know. She was, you know, by the book. This is how you got to do it, you know, and it was pretty intense, you know, but over time, the mutual respect for one another and her realizing that our respect for the facility and for our partnership with the city, we're all born and raised in the city. I saw that you're a Cass Tech alumni, and I am as well, class of 91.
Me too.
Right. You know, so it's just over time this relationship developed, and you know, spending, you know, the beginning of the summer with Movement and then the end of the summer with Jazz Fest kind of bookending, and you know, the stories and the hard times with rain and evacuations, you know, and having to deal with, you know, certain obstacles or javelins that kind of came our way, you know, and her guidance and you know, and having to deal, I'm getting on, and her supervision and her ability to, you know, just kind of know, I'm just going to make sure my stuff's turned down here. And, you know, beyond that, as our relationship kind of blossomed and grew stronger and everything, you know, she really became like a very powerful, like, for lack of a better term, like den mother to all of us down there, our crews that worked both events. And, you know, we had private jokes that we shared and, you know, nicknames for everybody. And just, you know, I can't even, you know, it's beyond public service, you know, her friendship and guidance and, you know, understanding. My father had multiple myeloma too, and he passed in 2019, and he went into the hospital while I was loading out Jazz Fest that year. And then he passed a couple weeks after that. And, knowing what I knew with my father and what I know she was dealing with, and she never stopped being like so strong, and uplifting. And I would be on calls with her, and I would break down because I miss my dad, and she would just sit there and listen to me.
Yeah. I want to jump in and give you a minute to let that settle in. I know it's still fresh for you, and I can tell how much you care about Lynn. And just to lighten it a little bit now, I started at Cass, but I couldn't hang. I ended up graduating from Murray Wright, but that's okay. I think I have love for both. So I thought I'd use a little laughter in there. But some of what you have shared is, I think, quintessential, Sam, about public service. We are pretty rules-based, right? And we do kind of hover over our assets and people, kind of like a mother hen might. And we are always working to be empathetic, to listen to the concerns and cares of our partners and vendors and employees and citizenry. And we're always trying to create an environment for excellence. And I think those are the themes I heard in what you said, that I know I can say amen if this were church to embody of Lynn, because that is who she was. Lynn had an indomitable spirit about pressing and persevering and being resilient. And those are all, I think, core values, though not named officially our core values, but I see that in Lynn as a legacy. It's a treasure trove that we should spring forward. I see it also in Val Miller. So I just wanted to lighten that up, because I can tell that you really had the Lynn experience. I call it the Lynn experience, because you and you should tell us a little bit more about the Movement Festival for those that don't know. But for me, I felt, Sam, like a rock star every time I went down there. I was the HR for recreation, and I felt like a rock star because Lynn walked me through, okay, we got to get Mr. Holmes a seat. Okay, Mr. Holmes, right this way. And I'm like, well, I'm a star. I guess I should dress up if I'm coming down to these events. She had a way of making you feel and be the most important person in whatever it was. And I call it the Lynn experience. She is an angel. And that's, if I can carry something forward of her, I think I'm going to work on giving people the Marcus experience, where they're like, I want more of that experience, because that's how Lynn was. It was never, it was always my pleasure to be with her, but she made it feel like it was her privilege to be with you. Absolutely. And so I love that about her. And so I just wanted to infuse a little bit about that. But tell us a little bit more about your interactions with Lynn, if you can.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like
multiple myeloma connections. I have a brother who is a multiple myeloma survivor, so I understand her listening to the stories and hearing the stories. But tell us more about Lynn and more about the Movement Festival.
Well, like I said, we were pretty, well, we were younger than I am now. I'll just put it that way, when we first started, doing the event. And, she was really, once she realized that, our hearts were in it, and, because obviously the festival had some troubled years in the first few years in its various incarnations that it had been through. And after the first couple of years, she really went out of her way to take us under her wing, and to explain to us the various dynamics within the city departments, how to navigate, permitting processes. And because at the time, and there wasn't a very cohesive kind of conduit of how a large scale of an event could navigate through the city, so her wealth of knowledge and relationships within the city, because, Lynn was kind of like a stealth bomber, you know what I mean? Like, she operated over there, and, not a lot of people really knew who she was or knew what she did, but she held the keys of the kingdom, in regards to a profound amount of knowledge, and relationships, outstanding relationships with so many events-based people in the city. And, the real kind of doers in the various departments, all the other people that you don't see, the guys from general services department and the guys from engineering department and guys from the electrical department, like how to solve problems, who to call, like at 11:30 p.m. on a Sunday night on a holiday weekend when there's a problem, you know, and it just, you know, I can't, it's just so many instances. I could go on for hours of just various times that she had the right tool for the job, the right key for the door, the right name for the problem, you know, and it's just, that is to me a true representation of somebody that is not only prepared to have a solution for problems as they arise. And you know, when you're dealing with a huge international event with tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people down there, you know, all of the potential things that could happen, you know, being able to maintain like a cool, you know, I mean, she really helped me, you know, learn how to deal with stress, you know, and to take a breath and, you know, have a minute to think and then create a solution, you know. And I owe so much of my professional career path and how people look at me now as a, you know, confident, calm, you know, solid kind of event producer because of, you know, her guidance through so many situations in those early years. And you know, having, you know, when you go to somebody and then they have, oh yeah, I got you here. Look, here's the person you call. They'll be here in 20 minutes. You know what I mean? Like the sense of ease and stillness is it's irreplaceable, you know? And so she was like a Swiss Army knife of knowledge and ability and, you know, and then at the same time, if you needed a hug, you know what I mean? Like she would just come up to you in the middle of the plaza because she'd be watching us on the cameras, you know, trying to fiddle with something or you know, and I turn around, she'd be standing there because she was so quiet, like walking. Hey, and she goes, "You need a hug, bro." You know, and I'm like, okay, you know, and it's just, you know, it's just little things like that. And, you know, we kept in regular communication right up until she had gone into hospice, you know, and it's just, I cannot say enough about how well she did her job and how much she truly cared about all of the events that she dealt with and her position in representing the city to these events, you know, in the best possible way. It's just, it's incredible, you know?
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And before we get to you telling us a little bit more about the Movement Festival, I'm going to pivot. You said something about a Swiss Army knife. Well, Valeria isn't a Swiss Army knife, but she is a force to be reckoned with. And Lynn started, you know, and with the city in 1992. Because she was a special service employee, they don't always get full credit for every year that they work, but she really would have retirement kind of years. And so Val Miller also has over 25 years. She started as a junior accountant with the city and is now an associate director in the department. This is what public service looks like. We've got people that are forces to be reckoned with. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit, Valeria, about that, and I'm going to double back to you, Sam, but I just want to go to the comments and welcome Adrian Green and Linda Phillips and Damon Tatum, Jamie Ringo, who's from DDOT Transportation. Thank you. If you're in public service, drop it in the comments, whichever platform you're on. Stacy Simon, Marcella Winston Brewer, who works now at Pension, who worked in human resources for years. Valencia Sheila Tate, Rakiba Dismuke, who is an HR manager. Thank you for joining us. Yolanda Spearman, brand new author. So I've seen people pipe in, click share and tag someone to join us. So Val, Sam, is one of those individuals I met when I first came to the city. I'll never forget, at that time, one of the directors of the planning and development department then was Henry Haygood.
Okay.
And we got in the elevator together and he said, well, how's it going? I said, I'm not so sure yet. He said, well, remember this, you will always have fun. And and I must admit, though there have been harrowing times and events, I've always, in these 18 years, I've always had fun. And some of the fun is meeting great people like Val, who has always been this force to be reckoned with, who can always sit in the background and be quiet, but she's the person that has the information and the hugs, really. Some people might think, oh, Val's a little tough. No, really, she's really the sweetest person you ever want to meet. And I think we just lost her. Wait, I'm giving her all the introduction and we just lost her. So we'll give her a second to come back. I think that might have been overwhelming. I don't know. While we're waiting for her to come back, Sam, tell us a little bit about the Movement Festival, because people might know, but they might not know about the Movement Festival. So I want to give them a little insight.
For those that may or may not be aware there she is. Do we want to hop to Val, or you want me to continue?
Go ahead.
Okay. So, for those that may or may not be aware, the techno music has been attributed, the creation of it has been attributed to Detroit, and thanks to the electrifying mojo on the radio and the Belleville 3 kind of rising up and creating the term for the music that they were creating in the early 80s. And, the long story short, it has since grown to become, techno and the various genres of electronic music that have kind of come out of it have grown into an $11 billion a year industry, globally. So, our event is, because of the rapid kind of ascent of electronic music and all the various genres, we because we're born and raised here, and we kind of came up underneath Kevin, Derek, Juan, Carl, Richie, all those guys, from the beginning. We feel that it's absolutely imperative that there be an internationally based electronic music festival in Detroit that celebrates Detroit, music, how Detroit impacted the global scene with the introduction of techno, by booking our event 5 stages, over 120 acts, usually every year, by highlighting not only the legacy Detroit talent, but the new Detroit talent, and then the global talent that has some type of direct or tertiary link to Detroit artists or record labels or things of that nature. So it could be anybody from Kraftwerk to Wu-Tang that we've had, Public Enemy we've had in the past, because, Detroit has even, the techno in Detroit has had impact on, legacy hip hop and stuff like Kraftwerk and things like that, who we've also had, at the festival. So we feel very fortunate and humbled to host this event every year in normal years when we're able to host it. We do about 40,000 people a day over 3 days, Memorial Day weekend. And it's at Hart Plaza, and it has become, as the scene, globally becomes so big and kind of diluted with all of these other kind of like mainstream and commercial genres that have sprouted out of it. More and more, like, people have started to look to the historical aspects, Chicago, Detroit, New York, in regards to house music, techno, things like that, to maintain the historical kind of legacy of the music and where it came from. So in a nutshell, that's what we try to capture with our.
I wanted to get that out because I'm hoping that whenever you're able to do your next festival, that there will be some banner or flag for Lynn. I wanted to just put that out there because,
absolutely going to happen.
She was the reason that I even knew about the Movement Festival. She said, you got to come down and see this. And so I went down. Whenever Lynn says you got to come down, my appetite is wet. So I had to go. And I was like, you're kidding me. So many gems and things that happen in Detroit that, if you don't go downtown or stay connected, you don't know what you're missing. And so I'm hoping that there will be some space or time that you can celebrate Lynn. That's why I wanted people to hear about it, so that it can be front of our minds to do that.
I've had it top of mind these last few weeks, and I can promise you and I will reach out to you personally so that you can witness whatever it is that we do. But I do promise you that it will be special, and it will not be a second thought. You know, it will be a primary thought when we do.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So I want to go back to you, Valeria, for the record. Val, you started as a junior accountant. You're associate director, chief of staff, whatever they want to call you. Mm-hmm. You are, and I'm very proud to be connected to you. But I think it's a great story for people in public service to see, because maybe people aren't migrating to public service. You know, when I came to public service, benefits were almost free. I mean, it was nominal. We paid a nominal copay or premium monthly. We had a pension that we didn't have to contribute to. I mean, the package was why I came, more than the salary, right? And then the opportunity to learn things about recreation, which is one of my loves. I almost said my love, but I'll get in trouble in human resources saying that. I love all of the departments. I love them all the same. I love them all the same. But I spent a lot of time at recreation, and I was amazed at the tons of things that are done. I was amazed at the tons of things that were done in planning and development with housing rehab and real estate. And so you got the opportunity, and still get the opportunity if you like, to learn all of these different things about departments. I want to ask you, back in, what was it, 1996, 94?
Yes. 96. Was it 96? Yep.
What attracted you to the city of Detroit? What made you want to come?
Well, you know, that's interesting, because one of my really good friends, she said, "Hey, I'm going to go apply for a job down at the city of Detroit." And at the time, I was working for a title company. Hadn't even thought about it. And I said, "Oh, okay. Well, when you go down there, see if they got anything for accountants." That's what my undergrad is in. And so we both applied. And interestingly enough, she didn't get in. And I did. And I came in as an afterthought. But when I got here, I was so mesmerized at the things that occur with the city of Detroit. So I was this young sprout that was there. And I worked with some of the greats, Marcus, and you know them all. Thomasina Tucker and Janie Warren, from our directors, Paul Bernard and Henry Haygood, and a lot of the greats that are known around the halls of KMAC. And I would just sit and soak in the stories and all of the great projects that were done around the city, and learned how those things were done, and how they created or contributed to the rich legacy in the city of Detroit. And that's where I got the bug to be that civil servant and to be of service. When people ask me now what I do, I say I serve as, because that's what I deem it to be. It's not just, you know, my job, or I have this, you know, fancy title that someone gives me depending on what the year is. But I am a civil servant first, rather, excuse me. And that's what I do. And that's what we pride ourselves in doing at the Housing and Revitalization Department. And it's funny, Marcus, because when I first started with the city, I think they had just gone through merging the planning department with community and economic development. And the more things changed, the more they stayed the same. And now we've kind of reverted back to that. So now the planning department is a separate agency again. And we're now known as the Housing and Revitalization Department. But we have a number of great initiatives that are going on. And most recently with the pandemic, last year, we really jumped into civil service, just full speed with providing COVID response. The city, who normally partners with many nonprofits and homeless shelters to provide services for the community, we took on that work directly. We became a service provider in that regard. So we partner with the health department and other staff, but Tara Linzer, who's our homeless services director, jumped in full speed ahead, and she was new to the position. That's the other crazy thing, Marcus.
Mm-hmm.
And we set up this homeless shelter that's has continued to operate
Mm-hmm.
in providing those level of services. And so for the last 25 years, I have watched as the agency has just morphed on to greater things. We started out with a much larger department, but it has been amazing with the things that we've been able to accomplish
Mm-hmm.
over the years. And what we're planning to do. I think we are just it's just in sync with what's needed for the city, and there's been so much talk about, you know, the revitalization of Detroit, and we want to make sure that everyone is included in that, from our neighborhoods to just the common John Q citizen that walks in the door that just may need some information.
Yeah.
And so we just stand to assist.
Yeah, and I want to get in more. I know we're at 12:48, but I want to get in more because there are programs that many other programs that you're not mentioning. I mean,
Yeah.
even though you're mentioning some, you're being quite modest because
Yeah.
there are tons of programs relative to mixed use and mixed access of
Yeah.
housing and development that I think people should hear about. And because you have an underwriting position, I think still open, maybe somebody that's on the LinkedIn network would say, hey, I want to join this department. I'm so excited because there are opportunities to really do what you
Yeah.
say, to serve the citizenry. And I think that is what we're all called to do. I want to double back to something you said, though, because you mentioned those greats, right? In the halls of the Coleman Young Municipal Center, right? Henry Haygood, who I mentioned, and Janie Warren and Thomasina Tucker. My goodness.
Yes. Yes.
And so tell me a little bit about maybe some important lessons that you've learned, because I'm sure, at least for Thomasina, I haven't talked to Janie and I don't know how long, but at least for Thomasina, who is an angel now on the other side, she would be so proud of you, Val. And so I know it's important for us to see what we want to be, right? And there's some African-American woman or man or other person that is watching you and saying, one day I want to be the next Val Miller. And so in that time, what did you see in them, or what lessons did you see that maybe helped you to see the vision of where you are today? Did you ever see that you were going to be where you are today?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Absolutely not. So, and I also must mention Sandra Coleman. And so when I started in my career with the city of Detroit is interesting because I've only remained with the Housing Revitalization Department. Well, what was then Planning and Development. And as you mentioned, I started out as junior accountant, and we would have these daily caucuses, and they were so informal. It's like, you know, I'd wander into Thomasina's office, or I wander into Sandra's office, and you know how you sit there as if you were a kid, and you sit there and hear the stories of, you know, the elders in your family or something, and they'd share these great stories about things that they've done and how they've managed projects and how they have just remained plugged in with their teams, and how it was so vital and important to establish those relationships and make sure that the team knew that how important they are. And so we would hear those stories and those great challenges, and how did you guys fix that, or how did you overcome that? And we would hear the strategies and all of the just the teachable moments that were gathered on their journey. And so as a junior accountant sitting there, I had no idea that I would ever be in this position. My thoughts were, okay, I'd be here, I'd serve, and maybe move on to something else. And over the years, I just became more fascinated with the things that we did. And more so on the general operations side, because I didn't know Lynn, but she sounded like a phenomenal woman. But being on the operations side to make sure that the whole thing is running smoothly. So I became fascinated with that, from the financial side, on the budget side, you know, and the HR side, which is how I met Marcus. And so those things kept me focused on we're serving a greater good here. And I think that that's the message that has to be extended to everyone, that you may just be a project manager, or someone may think they're just a project manager, or even junior accountant coming through the door. But the work that you're doing is so vital in helping our community, in helping our city to grow and thrive and be that world-class city that everyone envies, because they do. They envy us for the techno festivals, for our jazz festivals, for our fashion, for all of
for our music.
Our music, everything, that rich legacy that we have and continue to promote.
Yeah. I read earlier, Val, I don't know if you heard President Biden. And so I watched along with you some recorded clip from our public service recognition. I am Marcus Holmes, the HR Passion Guy, and this is another installment of Passion Friday. So those of you that are joining us from LinkedIn, where we are springboarding, or via Restream on Twitch TV, YouTube events, on Facebook, on the Marcus R. Holmes page, or on the Love and Stuff page. I am in Northwest Detroit. Nope, I'm downtown Detroit right now. And I am excited to share with you for just a few more minutes as we look at public service over the next couple of weeks, because there is such a war on talent. Many opportunities are out there, and it's kind of an employee's market, right? And so very soon I will have something. I have a webinar for job seekers who want to get that job in 30, 60, 90 days. Well, one of the great places that I want to highlight where you can work is the city of Detroit. As you see, the sun is coming in and out, so you're seeing a little bit less of me and a little bit more. And so I wanted to share some examples of public service. So thank you again, Sam Fotis, who has worked with the city, not as an employee, but his view has been from the outside. And he shared, of course, about Lynetta Shaw, who gained her wings earlier this year, who was the epitome of public service, and Valeria Miller, who over 25 years with the Planning and Development Department, Housing and Revitalization Departments, is now the Chief of Staff for them, their Associate Director, and she started as a junior accountant. So imagine starting in an entry-level position and over a 25-year career becoming in the top echelon of your department, particularly as an African-American woman. We are certainly proud of her. And so I wanted to highlight those, and we'll, over the next couple of weeks, highlight more so that you see that public service is a great choice. Public service is a great place to work. It is an employer of choice. It is a great place to work for so many reasons. And among them, as demonstrated and evidenced through what you've watched with Val, that you can see over time, you get many different opportunities to grow, to develop, to flourish, and to do it all over again, rinse and repeat. You also have the opportunity to meet vendors and partners who help to bring great services like the Techno Fest for many years, Electronic Music Fest for many years that Sam Fotis produces. In partnership with the city of Detroit, was able to bring great leisure activities and music to one of our music hubs, which is Hart Plaza, that has put on great music and great entertainment over the years. From that, through recreation to real estate and development and planning and urban planning, to public works, to parking, to the general services, various departments and opportunities. It's a great place to work if you're looking for an organization that has multiple lines of business and industries in which it's involved. That's one of the edges, I believe, that a municipality provides. You know, a Google is in the lines of business that it's in, and maybe a Walmart is in the lines of business that it's in. The city of Detroit is in the transportation business. It's in the recreation business. It's in the landscaping business. It's in the street scape and street paving business. It's in the urban planning and real estate development business. It's in the parking business. And so all of these different lines of business gives you different subcultures and opportunity to meet a host of different kinds of people and maybe find the career and meaningful work that you seek. You can go to www.detroitmi.gov/employment to join our team. And that's the first step in the process. We'll be back to talk to you later, another time rather, about that process. And again, we have coming up you 30, 60, 90 days to hearing that you have been hired. And I know there are a lot of jobs out there, but people are saying, where do I start? What do I do? Well, we have a special opportunity for those of you that are job seekers or those of you that are looking to get promotions on what you should do in just about 4 easy modules where you will learn about connecting with the best of you. And then once you connect with the best you got to look at your network and see if your network is reflective of your net worth. And you got to make some decisions about reaching out and building that network. And then research and resume. I think those two things go together. And so we'll talk about that. Then there's a whole module on behavioral-based interviewing, how you work to craft responses that reflect you. Because what they want to learn in an interview is who are you? And so that you rise up and show the best you, we've got a module to help you do that, as well as to close the deal. So there's some things that you should do once you get that offer or going into that offer to close the deal. I think it will be a wonderful opportunity for anybody that's seeking a job. Stay connected to me and you'll hear more about it here on LinkedIn and on Facebook, on Twitch TV, on YouTube events. You, 30, 60, 90 days from hearing you are hired. It's a wonderful opportunity for you to learn some tools, resources, and a few tricks that will help you get to that career position that you're seeking. Well, it's been a wonderful afternoon. As you notice, we normally do 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but due to schedule of demands, we had to move the time around a little bit. And I wanted to share some pre-recorded content from our public service recognition week that happened in May. And I will be sharing in the next several weeks again, different snippets, snapshots, if you will, of what public service excellence looks like. And I hope that you will continue to join us. So whether you are here with us on LinkedIn Live or via Restream, you are with us on Twitch TV, YouTube events as HR Passion Guy, with us on Facebook, Marcus Our Homes page, or sitting in the Love and Stuff community. Thank you for joining us today and have a grateful weekend.